Good morning, everybody. Of course, we are praying and acting and doing all kinds of things to help our brothers and sisters in Ukraine and everybody in harm's way. Our class today is dedicated for peace and safety for the people of Ukraine. Also, we have a lot more dedications today. Today's learning is sponsored in honor of a refuah shlema for Aliza Chana Bas Dina Ariella. We also are davening for Herschel Mendel ben Chaim ben Sheva, Leah Bas Freda, Noam Avram ben Mendel, Ruth Batzar Golda, Yitzchak ben Dvor, David Dina Bas Mendel, Aaron Ber ben Gittel, Avram ben Shana, Daniel ben Dvor, Maya Batzar, Chaim David ben Esther, Azulon Moshe ben Dvar, Bab Sheva Bracha, Chai Bas Sarah, Rina Bat Etel Nachman, Herschel ben Zilia, Michael Lev ben Tzipora, Bat Tzipora, Avram Shimon ben Sarah, Leah, Emmanuel ben Juliet, Harriet bat Lillian ben Miriam ben Sarah, Ari ben Esther, Yeshua ben Bluma, Chavas Etta, Yehonason Meir ben Carmen Rosa, Dov ben Sophie, Dov ben Tess, Betty, Maya Bas, Sarah Bas Betty. Wish everybody a refuah shlema. And we continue our learning of being healthy and the mitzvah of being healthy and things that we can do to be healthy. And reminder that the medical advice offered in the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch was the best of its time at the time. And today we would rely on the experts to tell us which things we should do. But we are going to learn them anyway, because learning Torah and learning this is important. And it's also very, very enlightening to see and to understand the kind of things that people were thinking in those days. And some of it's from the Gemara, some of it's from later from the Rambam and the Shulchan Aruch and so forth. So we've reviewed many different things that a person should eat, shouldn't eat, when they should eat, how much they should eat. Reminder that moderation is always good. Now we're going to get to shtia, which is a general category of drinking. Water is the most natural liquid for a human being and healthy for their body. And he says, so clean, pure water is beneficial, and it helps to keep the body moist and to help elimination. Shehem meravim hatzima'un umeitivim es ha'ikol yoser me elu she'enim karim. Now, he says when you drink water, it should preferably be cold, because it helps, quench your thirst, and it's supposed to help your digestion more than water that's not cold. So, if a person's, all the more for sure, if a person is tired, but if a person's very, very tired or exhausted, they shouldn't drink the cold water. So he's worried that it could weaken you. God forbid that because you're overheated or exhausted, some other cold water could do some damage, God forbid. But he warns that you shouldn't drink too much water, even though it's very healthy for you. He says you shouldn't drink water before you eat, because he's afraid it's going to chill the stomach, and it will interfere with digestion. Also, in the middle of your eating, so he says when you're eating and you want to drink something, so he says you could, have a little wine or water mixed with wine. Az ishte shiur beinoni. But once you've started digestion, then you can have a moderate amount of v'kein im nishtos mayim beitzenu merchatz shelo yiskarer hakaved. He says you shouldn't drink water when you get out of the bath because it will cool your liver. Mikol shekain shelo yishte b'merchatz. You shouldn't drink water in the bath. V'chein lo yishte oisa tekef achar amizgal. L'yishaz hachom hativi hu chalush v'yeh gorem itzkarev averim. So he doesn't think you should drink water after relations with your spouse because he says you're in a weakened state and it will cause the further weakening. Of course, friendly reminder, not sure that is accurate today, but definitely we know that you got to drink a lot of water, and that is definitely good for you. And the Torah wants us to be healthy, and so all these are advice for us to look out for what we're eating and drinking. So what about wine? Reminder, we're in chapter 32. Now we're in paragraph 18. So he's a fan of wine. Wine machzik, it strengthens the natural heat, the natural vitality of the body. It helps digestion, and it helps with elimination. General help of your body. But you should drink a moderate amount. Don't overdo the wine. But not everybody can handle it. And so if wine really gets to you, and you're a person who's easily under the influence, so then you need to be careful. So if you easily become intoxicated, you really need to be careful because it's not going to do good for you. He says wine's good for older people, not good for narim is young people, but really narim is youth, right? So kids, stay away from the wine. Why? Because it's going to damage the natural vitality. It's like adding fire to fire. He says you should avoid wine until you're, how old do you think? 21. Right? I wonder if the Food and Drug Administration, when they were setting the alcohol, restrictions for the nation, when they moved it from 18 to 21, they were referencing the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. We will never know. You can drink a little wine before you eat, but not too much. Because he says it opens the appetite, but shouldn't drink wine when you're really starving. You shouldn't do it after a steam bath or after the bathhouse. So also don't drink wine right after you've exercised or done strenuous labor. Not a good idea. And during a meal you can drink a little bit, but only a little bit, says the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. Number 19, le'olam lo yechel adam ele kashehu ra'ev. So we learned previously that one of the ways of controlling one's yetzer hara, the natural tendency for a person to want to feed their desires, is eating is one of the ways that we satisfy our desires. But he reminded us then that you should eat when you're hungry. You shouldn't just eat for the sake of eating. That's not healthy. And so he's going to say the same thing about drinking. Should drink when you're thirsty. Now, again, we probably don't drink enough. A lot of people end up becoming dehydrated. So that's just my 2 cents. People should probably be drinking more water than we do. And this is a very interesting. This is discussed also in the Rambam. A person, if they need to use the restroom, should not wait. You should really not, as we'd say, hold it in. He doesn't consider it healthy. And but you should. And then he also says you should wait to eat if you need to use the restroom. Question, is this halacha? So it is halacha to not delay elimination. So if a person feels the need to use the restroom, they should go, and there's no doubt about that would be halacha today as well. It also comes into play when it comes to davening and prayer, right? Is that if you need to use the restroom, we learned in Hilchos Tefillah, we learned in the laws of prayer that if a person just has a need for number one, so then they could still pray. They still could, if they needed, if they were not able to find a place, but they needed to pray, they could. But if a person needs to use the restroom for number two, then they are not permitted to pray, and they need to first find a restroom. Thank you for the question. If there are any more questions, feel free to text them in. Lo'olam yishtadel adam she'em me'av refuim kol yamav v'hi karov le'shilshul ma'at. So, it's a little bit graphic. A person should try not to have very solid bowel movements, but they should try to be more soft. Because it doesn't want a person to be constipated, which in those days and today would say is a health issue. And if you see that you just don't have the ability to eliminate, you're having trouble, you're for weakness or something else, every person needs to go get advice from a doctor if they're not having a proper and regular elimination. And everybody is going to be different, but he exhorts you to go to see the doctor. Exercise, and he says moderate exercise. Exercise is good for the body, as we mentioned above. Aval, he says, but strenuous exercise or too much rest is not good for the body. In the summer, he's worried that a person should only exercise less, in the winter more. And a person who is overweight should exercise more than somebody who is skinny. A person who wants to guard their health. Tzarich ladas, they should know. Ha'tnua hanafshiyos v'lizaher mehen. So they, and this is, wow, could do a whole class on this. You need to be familiar with your emotional health and understand your reactions. In other words, how a person's emotional life impacts their health. For example, joy and worry, anger and fear, these are activities that they have an impact on your nefesh, we would say on your psyche. A person should endeavor that they psychologically, right? They need to, their mind should be happy with their lot all the days of their life. A person shouldn't worry V'lo yivakesh yisroinoi. So you should not worry, you should not be anxious about things which are not your own. In other words, don't worry about things you can't control. V'lo yivakesh yisroinoi. A person shouldn't seek out luxury. V'lo v'yeh b'tov lev b'simcha amumatzas. Person should be with a joyous heart and happy with what they have. Ki im siba legadel lachom hativi lakel lamachal l'digol l'mtores l'chazek or b'naim kol l'chaz v'kol l'izkan kol. What are we saying here? That if you are joyful, and he says, okay, it's not like running around, like on, on some kind of medication, but like just you're joyful, you're satisfied with your lot. This is helpful for the body. It helps with your digestion. It helps with your elimination. He says it strengthens your vision and other senses and your intellectual faculties, right? Just being joyous has an overall beneficial effect. But he doesn't want you to be overly joyous with food and drink, like the fools. Chamios l'shetach haguf ve'yustach hachom hativi v'yizreket lev b'tom ve'amuz below itav apesach. So he says, yes, you should be joyous and you should be happy, and a person should be enjoy their lot, but you shouldn't do that through eating and drinking, as fools do, because there's too much of this kind of joy will bring, as he says, will bring the internal heat of your body to the surface. It will, and then the internal part of your body will become cold, and your heart will become chilled, and God forbid a person could die prematurely. He's really worried about people who become overweight because they can't keep their health regulated. And he's worried that that it's going to affect their circulation and their heart, and that this will be difficult for the heart, and it'll bring a person to early death. Hakas, anger, and he also, anger is bad for your health. He says, he says also it brings this heat to the body, and a person could get a fever. Hapachad yolid beguf karirus v'lacheni yureb mepachad ra'ava. Also fear ukushe tispa b'karirus ulay yamus umikol sheken tzarich yizaher shelo yoechel kashu kaas oy b'pachad or b'dag ele kashu simcha me'umatza. So, right, he's worried about anger, he's worried about fear, and these things can have a chain reaction and cause a premature death. Needless to say, he says you should not eat when you're angry, fearful, or anxious. Right? Don't use food as a way to calm yourself from anger, fear, or anxiety. Rather, you should eat when you're in a joyous mood. So, a lot here to digest. And everybody have a phenomenal